The danger is for all of us that if this continues in such an irrational way, this is way beyond demanding more defense spending for him to stay in NATO or negotiating directly with Kim Jong Un. This is pretty wild stuff. Is that the bad boys, that is Putin and Xi, will start not taking him seriously, whereas it's very important that they take him seriously, and they basically did in the last administration. And so that's my biggest worry, is that they'll make mistakes on the assumption that this guy's off his rocker.
European leaders have warned Donald Trump to respect the sovereignty of EU states after the president-elect refused to rule out using military force to take over Greenland.
About Panama and Greenland, no, I can't assure you on either of those two, but I can say this: we need them for economic security. The Panama Canal was built for our military. I'm not going to commit to that now. It might be that you'll have to do something. Look, the Panama Canal is vital to our country. It's being operated by China. And we gave the Panama Canal to Panama. We didn't give it to China. And they've abused it. They've abused that gift. It should have never been made, by the way. Giving the Panama Canal is why Jimmy Carter lost the election, in my opinion.
Well, that was Donald Trump unveiling the plans during a news conference at his Mar-a-Lago ranch yesterday. He was setting out his foreign policy agenda for when he returns to the White House in less than two weeks' time. In response, the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has told reporters that the leaders of the nations of the European Union will not tolerate the violation of Greenland, a Danish territory, of its borders. Well, James Jeffrey is a former US diplomat and a deputy national security advisor. Good evening to you, James.
Good evening. Thank you for having me on.
Really good to speak to you. We will come to all of that, but let me ask you first of all about a story which is on the front page of the Times here in the UK tonight. Take back ISIS Britons, says Trump's terror chief. This is Sebastian Gawker, who's about to become the director of counter-terrorism in Donald Trump's incoming administration. And he is saying that Britain must bring back British members of Islamic State who are being held in Syrian prison camps. What do you make of this call from a senior official in the new administration?
Well, it's exactly the right call. It's a call that we made in the last Trump administration when I was doing the Syria account. It is also something that the Biden administration has pushed for. These people should be taken back. The United States has taken back, when I was doing the job, it was some 25 American citizens. And this is a major security problem for the new Syria that everybody is hoping to see develop. It also is a breeding ground for Islamic State terror. There's no reason why these people should not leave there and go back to their home countries, mainly in Europe.
But we have had a British court actually rejecting an appeal from Shamima Begum, who's one of the most high profile of those prisoners, and wanted to come back to the UK. I mean, there is a problem here, isn't there? I mean, there are literally thousands of people stuck there in limbo.
Once again, they're your citizens. We took our citizens back.
So you're saying that Britain must take back those that are British?
As a diplomat, I don't use the term must. I'm just saying that it is a very important issue for not just Trump and this administration, but it's been a very important issue for various American administrations. These guys coming in will just be a bit tougher in pushing it, and Gawker is just the guy who can do it.
Let me turn to some of the reactions there's been to those remarks from Donald Trump yesterday. He talked about how he wanted to take control of Greenland, also taking control of the Panama Canal. Panama's rejected that. And you've got a lot of European leaders saying that Donald Trump shouldn't be meddling in EU sovereign territories with this desire to take control of Greenland. Do you think he's serious about that?
It's always hard to predict whether a president is serious, particularly one like Donald Trump. He says a lot of things that he doesn't follow up on. He also says things to provoke. The underlying logic that he seems to, and in my experience in the last administration, carried out was, I don't adhere to conventions. I don't adhere to the international rule of law per se. I am interested in advancing American interests, and I'll do it any way I can. Now, as it turns out, he didn't do all of that much that was bad or shocking the last time. We're all hoping that that will be the case this time, but you're going to get more of this, I'm sure, at least in the rhetoric.
Why do you think Donald Trump is so keen on Greenland?
He was, he raised this repeatedly in his first administration. It is a security concern, and he listens to a lot of people. He's very interested in the world. He's very interested in, protecting American security. And the Arctic has become really, really important because of global warming and because of the new threat from Russia and China in that region. So I think he sees it as a possible base. It was a major American base during World War II, for example.
And there is already one US base on part of Greenland's territory, isn't there?
That's right. And, believe me, having been his man with the Syrian bases, he often confuses having a base in a country with owning the country or having territorial control over it. And I think that's basically where he's heading.
Do you think there's a risk, though, that even before his inauguration in less than 2 weeks' time now, Donald Trump risks annoying a number of EU leaders, let alone leaders in Panama? Or do you think he's actually quite happy to do that?
He loves annoying, particularly the Germans. There's a long history going back to Merkel. And the Germans are not only, for good reason, out of history, believers in the international order and the rule of law, but they're also, they panic at any deviation from it. So he's having a good time getting a reaction from Schultz. But that said, he believes, and he's right, that the Europeans need us, particularly in the Ukraine war, much more than we, particularly Donald Trump, needs them. So you're going to, again, have more of this. The danger is for all of us that if this continues in such an irrational way, this is way beyond demanding more defense spending for him to stay in NATO or negotiating directly with Kim Jong-un. This is pretty wild stuff, is that the bad boys, that is Putin and Xi, will start not taking him seriously, whereas it's very important that they take him seriously, and they basically did in the last administration. And so that's my biggest worry, is that they'll make mistakes on the assumption that this guy's off his rocker.
Let me just ask you about Donald Trump and the relationship with the UK once he does return to the White House. We've had this absolute tirade of attacks from Elon Musk, who, of course, is going to be leading that department for Donald Trump and also seems to be a very close ally at the moment. Do you think that that does signal an impatience, a concern with the way that Keir Starmer is heading the government here in the UK? Or do you think that perhaps Donald Trump might have some reservations about some of the pretty outspoken language that Musk has been using about our Prime Minister and several of our senior ministers?
I don't think Trump cares that much what Musk says. And look at what Musk is doing with continental European countries, advocating for the right-wing AfD in Germany, for example. You're not the only people who can complain. But Musk isn't Donald Trump. Musk's job isn't to make foreign policy for Trump. Only Trump will make foreign policy. He, of course, had a good relationship with Boris Johnson, all in all. And the relationship is a very, very important one, and Trump realizes that at one or another level. I think that if Stammer, shows prudence and reaches out to Trump, it'll be okay.
James Jeffrey, former US diplomat, former Deputy National Security Advisor. Really good to speak to you tonight. Thank you so much, sir.